Tonight, the governor of Busia, county number 40, Sospeter Ojaamong, is reading malice and vendetta in the charges preferred against him and 9 other county officials. The DPP Noodrin Hajj approved prosecution of Busia county government officials in relation to irregular acquisition of integrated solid waste management services, where millions of shillings was allegedly lost. But Ojaamong says this matter had been raised by the EACC and the court cleared the county officials of any wrongdoing. Ojaamong also notes he is yet to be officially notified of the prosecution he is about to face. At least 4 more governors are likely to face charges once investigations by the EACC into various cases are complete. The cases point to the thorny issue of county resources management that has seen many governors and county officials lock horns with the anti-graft agency. Ojaamong spoke to the media earlier in the day and in his defense opens the big story tonight. Let's listen into what he had to say.
I've not gotten the official communication yet from the DPP. I've just been reading in the social media and the mainstream press has been highlighting. But if it is the case about the solid waste management, which the county government engaged with Madam Ree, I want to assure Kenyans we are as clean as cotton or snow. In fact, the county government got value for the money we invested with Madam Ree.
Well, the governor there saying that he's being targeted because of political reasons. On the show tonight, I shall be speaking to 2 analysts, Abelo Yeyo and Evans Wafula. But before I engage them, let's cross over live to our lead reporter, Sophia Anuna, who has more on this developing story. Sophia, good evening. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, of course, are on record saying that they have enough evidence to nail 4 governors. 1 governor has already been mentioned. I think 3 more to go. What more do you have for us?
Good evening, Yusuf. Yes, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, or DPP, today giving a go-ahead for those charges against Governor Ojaamong and several other officials from that county. Abuse of office is one of the charges they will be facing. The governor earlier, as you said in his defense, has said this is a matter that was closed earlier a while back, a few years back. It's now coming back and he believes he will be cleared just as was the other time. He reads this to be a malice and a witch hunt. So we'll wait to see how it plays out. You spoke about the EACC and saying they had investigated and had charges against 3 other governors. However, the ODPP had put aside those other charges, finding that there was not sufficient evidence to sustain a case. However, further investigations were called for. And so in question, in light of this development, is the expenditure of taxpayers' money at the county level, and corruption in of itself has been a huge problem in the country. And many a times the focus is just at the national government, but this allows for that conversation to happen. In light also, we just saw the other day the budgets from the various counties, the areas they are seeking to prioritize, and yet we have seen and have heard the Auditor General time and again raise the red flag in as far as money for the taxpayers and how it's been spent. Tonight, want to get insights from the Senator of this county, Nairobi County, that's Johnson Sakaja, Super Senator.
Yes.
Thank you for making time for us tonight.
Thank you.
So here, this is the first time we're seeing a governor being charged in as far as this abuse of office charges. We've seen charges come out before, but not really going to the extent we are hearing the ODPP say we have confidence we can prosecute this case.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting development.
Yeah.
In the past, the only similar case was that of I think Governor Alfred Mutua.
Right.
That of Governor Evans Kidero as well in Nairobi. Mm-hmm. Yet that was also stopped by the court when it prevented investigations into some of his accounts back then. I think for me it is positive, but also it's not a time to celebrate. Mm-hmm. Kenyans have wanted to see big fish. And not just big fish arraigned in court, right, but big fish convicted, having been found guilty. And we see smaller fish are the ones who, get caught in the net. And I'm concerned because we've not seen a difference in the multi-agency approach between the prosecution, the investigation, and the judiciary. That is what we need. We get too many cases. Remember when the president came to parliament, he spoke about almost 300 cases, and he asked people to step aside. And all those 300 cases went to the courts, and we've never seen a single conviction from those cases. We want to see serious convictions, not just for the sake of it. I think legal scholars in the past have said that it is better to leave 10 guilty people away than have one innocent person in jail.
Right.
But let us see that the wheels of justice are turning so that we can have accountability at the national level and also at the county level.
Yeah.
The countries that have succeeded in fighting corruption have not had necessarily a special institution like the SEC doing it. If you look at the Office of Governance and Ethics in the US, if you look at the UK, what they have is a tripartite between the prosecution, the judiciary, and the investigation. And those three work seamlessly together to make sure when a case is brought, it is not thrown away because of lack of evidence,
Right.
but a case goes to full prosecution and conviction.
And we've seen the Auditor General Oko many a times talk about billions that cannot be accounted for, misuse of funds by county assemblies, and yet we do not see much in as far as accountability. So that, yes, we're talking about grand corruption at the national level, but there's a feeling it's thriving and unchecked at the county level as well.
We need to strengthen the office of the Auditor General and devolve it further. If you look at the Senate is in a precarious situation because we are still dealing with reports of the Auditor General from 2014, 2015. For instance, as a senator of Nairobi, I'm only getting reports on Governor Evans Kidero, yet I'm supposed to be oversighting the current county government. Of course, history will tell us what happened wrong, what went wrong before, but we need to strengthen so that he can churn out these audit reports faster and we're able to process them faster also as a Senate. Devolution and fiscal decentralization was not about moving corruption to a lower level, but it was about ensuring that resources go to the lowest level possible, and that is the ward, so that no part of this country feels left out. Many of us feel that to a great extent we've devolved corruption. If you look at the counties, the budgets that are coming from many various counties, you see a lack of priorities. More than 200 million in each of these counties, 100 million, 150 million for governors' mansions and deputy governors'
Even
mansions.
for Nairobi, 4.5 B for the office of the governor.
4.5 billion for the office of the governor. Though in Nairobi, I think the misunderstanding is that in that 4.7 billion, there are three different departments. There's a legal department, there is a city inspectorate department, which includes disaster management and fire. Rescue. There's also what we call the sub-county administration. So the headline was a bit misleading, but even the 2-point-something billion left in the office of the governor for coordination is a bit much because the prioritization is not clear. Today we've seen the issue of swimming pools in 17 constituencies, yet we are struggling with the issue of water. I think we need a better cooperation between the Senate and governors across the country in terms of prioritization. But the misnomer that 4.7 billion is to the office of the governor is not true, at least for Nairobi.
Yeah.
But many, if you're telling me a county that does not have roads, maybe Wajir or Kilifi, or for instance Kilifi, I think they're close to 250 million shillings, for a house, and they're already done for one for the governor, now it's for the deputy governor.
Wow.
The Nairobi Speaker's office residents again are more than 100 million. When our young people look at this and they're struggling with employment issues, our farmers across the country are struggling with being able to get their produce. I think Kenyans are wondering, really, was this the essence of devolution? Before you became a governor, before you became a speaker, you had a house, you're living somewhere. Can you go on living there? You don't need a house allowance.
Okay, in the first term of 5 years of devolution, we saw a lot of vibrant county assemblies and Senate in checking governors, accountability, asking questions. In fact, a back and forth on, can you summon me, you can't, and all of that.
Yeah.
Now, we don't see the Senate taking that role to make sure governors can account to the electorate and be able to answer these hard questions.
Remember, even in the last Senate, most of this happened after the second year, from 2014-15, because by then the governors had had one full financial year for you to be able to have an objective report. You can do accountability or oversight in a very subjective way to say, oh, we just feel things are not going wrong, so let me do a press conference, let me summon this one. But there's no documentation to show you that this is a money they've gotten. For instance, you can say Mombasa has received 6 billion shillings, and from the 6 billion, this is what has been used, this is what has not been used. As the questions we're asking. So accountability accountability must be objective. It cannot be because you're challenging the governor and you want to be the governor, or it cannot be because you have political differences, you're from different parties. It must be based on the reports from the competent agencies, like the Office of the Auditor General or the County Assembly, and on specific issues. And I'll give an example, for instance, for Nairobi. Even before the 9 months, I've already asked for the Auditor General to audit the revenue collection, because we were hearing high figures being bandied around of revenue collection, yet what has been declared by the finance CEC is 8 billion. So if you had been telling us throughout the year that you're collecting 50 million a day, 100 million a day, that should account to much more. And we want clarity. So the situations where you can ask for special audit on such an issue. But generally, the Senate needs to have objective oversight based on the Auditor General's reports and reports from county assemblies.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be anarchy. It will just be politics, and we want to separate politics from accountability. People of this country, across the counties, Nairobi, Kisumu, Mombasa, Eldoret, want services at the lowest level.
Yeah. County assemblies finally are very powerful, and the members of the various wards. And yet we've seen a lot of missing the point in as far as what they deem priority. We saw the benchmarking trips. Even now, the location to some of these things they want to do, they insist on getting quite a substantial amount. How do we cure this?
I think the MCAs in this term of parliament are doing a bit better than those in the previous, when devolution was starting, like those who went to see where Jesus was born, to benchmark. I don't know whether they're benchmarking in Israel, and those who always go to Rwanda. I think there's need for better cooperation, and the legislative summit that has brought together the county assemblies forum and the Senate has produced great results. You can see that the capacity of the members of county assembly is amazing.
The highlight of that summit, if you remember, was their ward fund, is what they were insisting, and parks and cars.
I don't agree with the cars and parks debates, but the ward fund for me, if you ask me, is something very noble. Devolution is based on what we call the principle of subsidiarity. Means a service is best offered at the lowest level compatible with the benefit area of that service. So if in Nairobi, for instance, we can say, let's put together, out of the 30 billion budget, let's leave aside 5B that goes to each and every of our 85 wards, and let Mwananchi in those wards sit down and say, this is our priority as the people. That is devolution, that is subsidiarity, that's the lowest level. So that there's no part of a county. We've had in many counties, especially in the rural areas, where a governor is elected and he ignores the areas where their clans didn't vote for him, or he ignores certain wards where he didn't get a lot of support, which is, for me, warped logic, because those are the areas you need to focus on. But ward development fund, where it is not that you're giving the MCA money to dish out, no. That money must still be run by the county executive, but you must earmark projects agreed upon by the residents of those different wards. For me, is a very positive thing and must be done. Of course, the issue of salaries, for me, is always a misplaced conversation. Even within the National Assembly and the Senate, recently when they said they want to raise our salaries, I said I do not want a raise. And if they decide to raise it by force, there'll be a standing order to a charity in this city. Because we can't keep talking about our salaries. There's too many people in Nairobi, in Kenya, in our villages, who cannot even get 3 square meals a day. We as leaders should never be talking about adding perks to ourselves. And I hope that is not happening within the county assemblies. That's why we have ceilings that are set by the Senate and the Commission of Revenue Allocation.
All right. Many thanks.
Thank you very much,
Asante sana for your time. Johnson Sakaja, Nairobi Senator, with us tonight. Yusuf, I hand it back to you to continue the rest of the conversation.
Thank you very much, Sophia, for that. Of course, Sophia, they're speaking to Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja. Now, here is a quick look at the charges being leveled against Governor Sospeter Ojaamong and 9 officials from his county. You've seen the development today. The DPP, the Director of Public Prosecution, of course, approving the prosecution of the governor there. And there you go. The charges there. He's been accused of abuse of office, flouting procurement procedures, conspiracy to commit an offense of economic crime, engaging in a project without proper planning, and then willful failure to comply with law relating to management of funds. Over to the next infographics, then the accusations there continue. Fraudulent acquisition of public property and failure to pay taxes. And, of course, in his defense, the Busia governor there saying, quote unquote, you've heard his soundbite earlier, he's saying the Busia county got value for money invested with Madam R, that is the company in question. He goes on saying, I've not been officially summoned to record a statement. And then he continues saying that the worst that will happen is for police to arrest us. We have papers and MOUs we signed for deal. Prosecuting matter to its conclusion is what matters. That is the reaction there from the governor in question there, of course, Busia Governor Sospeter Ojaamong. In studio, I still have Evans Wafula and Abel Oyeyo. Of course, they've been following developments in the other set of government, that is the county government, and in particular, what is developing there in Busia County. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the program.
Good evening.
So, Evans, let me begin with you. From the governor's reaction there, it seems he's blaming politics on the move by the Director of Public Prosecution. And he's not the only one, apparently. It seems like corruption and politics, there's a very thin line between these two issues. Whenever somebody is accused of corruption, they tend to say, well, they're being targeted for political reasons.
Yusuf, I would like to begin by, first of all, agreeing to almost everything that Honorable Sagaja has just alluded. But most important is just we need to understand as a country that in Kenya, corruption has actually become an enterprise, whereby it's sort of institutionalized in almost every sector of government, even outside government. You'll find that the fingerprints of corruption are actually almost everywhere. That's the biggest problem. But you know, the fact here remains is that corruption never hides. I think for Honorable Ojaamong, what he does not understand is that now the axe has fallen on him. This investigation did not start yesterday. Since 2016. They have actually been investigating these allegations. But I think now what he needs to do, and I think what is most important, is for him to let the law to take its course. The problem here is that we have always politicized corruption. When someone has been mentioned in a corruption accusation, we'll always want to call a press conference and blame politics. I saw immediately the DPP indicated that they might arrest him and charge him. He hurriedly called a press conference that was actually very poorly organized, just to come and start talking and putting the name of the president in the statement, saying that this will undermine what the president wants to do. I think the president has been very clear that corruption is not going to be left to go. And everybody who has been implicated in corruption must be held accountable.
Yes, Evans, and I understand that arrest is yet to happen. Now, Abel, if you've heard the reaction there by the governor in question, is saying that he's being targeted by, of course, political reasons. And then he went on saying that, you know, this is meant to divert attention from the ongoing sugar problems. And as Evans has already alluded to, this is an investigation that started back in 2016. I don't think the sugar crisis was there then.
Well, I think there are a couple of issues here. Number one, there's a problem with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. There's no way you can come and present one case which is about 20 million shillings when the country has been crying over corruption cases of so much money, running to billions of shillings. And, of course, at the end of the day, the politics of it is what Kenyans are going to see, because Kenyans expect actually EACC to go after the big fish. So that is why it's so easy for the governor to politicize the whole thing and make it very small. And I think there's an impact, there's a negative impact on the big agenda of the president. So that is why he was able to come up with all those allegations of, oh, you know, it's a diversion from the big scandals we're witnessing now. So EACC has to actually give us people who are behind the big scandals so that when we see the small ones, we can say they're serious. So I'm not even blaming the DPP.
Shillings, Abel, loss of 20 million shillings is not less of a crime, right?
We're talking about 20 million in comparison to like 9 billion shillings. And remember, we go back in NYS, we go back to the time of the former CS, Waiguru. So Kenyans want to see guys behind those big scams brought to book before we can talk about 20 million shillings. Yusuf, when you look at 20 million versus 9 billion, the difference is so big. So don't give us someone who has stolen 20 million first. Give us someone who's stolen 9 billion shillings first.
Let me bring Evans into this conversation. Evans, do you think the EACC, I mean, why are we not seeing the arrest or perhaps the prosecution of the big fish, as Abel is pointing out?
I think I don't agree with Abel. You've seen policemen being arrested just because of 50 shillings and being charged. Some of them have lost their jobs. Here we are talking about a governor who has misappropriated money that is supposed to go to benefit the county. I think what is happening here is that the politicization of this war against craft is what is actually becoming an impediment to the entire problem. I think what we need to do is that a thief is a thief, and that's the words of the president. Whether it's a governor, whether it's somebody who has stolen from the street is a thief, and they should be held accountable to what they have actually done. So it's not an issue of how much money is involved here, because understand here, the issue here is that the procurement procedures were not followed. The case involves something to do with single sourcing. And that's where the problem is. Honorable Sakaja has just told us about how he fears that corruption might have been actually devolved into the county government. And we know it's a big problem. The Senate has not even been able to hold most of these governors accountable. So I think for my colleague to say that it's about the money involved, or they try to quantify what has happened with the amount involved, is totally wrong. And that's where we miss as a country.
Yeah, Abel, as we react to that, speaking about the politicization of the war on graft, one body that has been accused left, right and center is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And they are record having said that they have enough evidence to nail 4 governors. One has been mentioned, 3 more to go. Are we seeing some sort of a renaissance from this body?
What's your last part of the question?
I'm saying we've seen a lot of accusations being targeted to, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. They're on record of already having saying that, they have evidence to nail 4 governors. 1 has been mentioned, 3 more to go. Do you think EACC is now back into action?
Well, you can say so if you don't want to pay attention to the bigger issues of corruption. Like I said earlier, there's a very nice Nigerian proverb which tells us the sun has to shine on those who are kneeling before it can shine on those who are doing what? No, on those who are standing before it can shine on the ones who are kneeling. Now, if a scandal occurred sometimes back in 2014 or even 2012, and it's not been prosecuted and it's worth billions of money, and then we have a small scandal worth 20 million shillings, which occurred maybe in 2015, and that is what you're following, Kenyans will not take you serious. So you can say, of course, if you don't want to focus on the big scams we have around, you can say that they are serious now. But if you want to focus on the big scams...
This is like a right place to start from, on the fight on graft?
No, you have to start with the big ones. We're talking about a lot of money that has cost us so much, 9 billion shillings, sometimes back it was 798 million shillings, big amounts of money. So if you come and tell us, you followed all the way to capture governor with 20 million shillings and now you're serious, that is not seriousness. Of course, I'm not going to say it's a small job. They've done something, but it's not what Kenyans want to see.
Now even we've seen time and again reports from both the Auditor General and some quarters from the Control of Budget, where they've said time and again that, counties are overspending money more than is recommended on county officials. Actually, there are those counties that are even spending money on salaries and allowances, monies that are meant for development. Do you think there are counties that have serious bookkeeping issues that needs to be addressed?
Virtually all the counties. I think from the first 5 years ago, you saw the problems. They used to call it teething problems within the counties on how to manage their books. But it's become an enterprise, as I said. I think if you look at the lifestyle of the governors and the MCS, it will actually show you that it's not an issue of bookkeeping, but people have actually realized that there's money, free money somewhere. One thing we are not probably saying is that we have the EACC, which is totally a toothless bulldog. It can't do anything. You remember they normally come sometimes to complain that they do not have powers to prosecute. But that's not the issue. Corruption stinks even in the EACC. There's already an allegation that some of the officials have also been victims of corruption. So I think what we need to do as a country, I think what's important is that to slay corruption, we need to start even with the small cases that we know. I don't think there's anybody who will say that when you're looking for a tender, for example, virtually every office you go, you will have to pay something. That's still corruption. So if you see that you have to pay something to push a tender, then what does that say? It means that the procedures are not followed properly, and to an extent, it means that the institutionalization of corruption virtually in our social sector, in social life, in business, you will not go anywhere without anybody telling you to part with something. Then that is where the problem is.
Abelo, you've already mentioned the need to arrest these so-called big fish. We've seen a lot of corruption happening in the national government. And of course, there are those who are also saying, corruption has been devolved to county governments. Do you think there are the bigger fish within county governments that need to be exposed?
I don't think so. Once you've gone after the governors, I don't think there's anyone else who is bigger than a governor in a county. And again, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. The national government, the DPP and all those guys, CSCC, cannot go after governors when there's a lot of corruption in the national government. That is why it needs to start. If the national government corruption is properly investigated, those guys arrested and prosecuted, then you can go to the counties and tell them, now we've come after you. But you see now they're pointing fingers back to the national government. You guys have a lot of mess. And when you come down here, when we've done things which are very small and sometimes in a very clean way, like Ojaamong is saying, you guys are playing politics. He's saying it's a diversionary tactic. If the government, the national government...
When you're saying the DPP and all these other offices are supposed to concentrate on national government, are you suggesting that, corruption should be left unabated in the county level?
No, it should be a starting point. You begin from the national government, then you clean it down.
It's happening in county governments. Even I'm sure you want to jump into this conversation.
Sure. See, the problem that has always been deviled as is that we have been having poor investigations. I mean, our investigation agencies have not been able to live up to the task. And that is why mostly you found, even when the president relieved some people, about quite a number of cases were thrown out. Look at the case of NYS. A lot of people have been released because poor investigation. I think now the DPP is very serious. And I remember from his assertion is that he cannot be able to go to court with cases that at the end of the day they will be thrown out. And I think Ojaamong's case is a test case where the prosecution itself is very confident that they have enough evidence to pin down this monster called corruption. And I think it's for us to wait and see how the law will take its course. But we cannot rely, and I really commend so much the current investigations that are going on, even with the cases of, like, for example, NYS, is because it's not been left to one agency like the ESCC, which totally has really let us down. It's completely failed.
And of course, I'm going to give Abel a chance to have his view after this very short break. And of course, we're going to talk more about what needs to be done, especially with regards to the big fish that Abel has been talking about, and what is stopping these agencies from nailing the so-called big fish, the war on graft. Of course, this is the big story. We're going to take a very short break. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.